the ways, but it's not quite our way.
No.
But we were very patient in figuring that out, which is a good way to start talking about Jerry, I think.
Jerry.
Because that's about that office. Jerry is one of the things that's like part of our North Star. It's everything, it's the DNA.
Yeah.
But kind of, how would you, probably the first 6 months might be a good way to think about it in terms of our clients and the business of the business itself. How would you say that went?
Yeah, so I think what it is I think we has just come from like, you know, direct to consumer kind of e-commerce kind of world, and I knew it, and it's in growth, and there's some stuff that I find exciting about it. So when we started, it was a case of you know, maybe had some connections already there, like, you know, maybe that would be good for us, you know what I mean, that would be good for us. And also there was that, and then obviously the inquiries you get inbound as well, you're not actively seeking Jerry, you're just kind of responding to what comes in. And the problem with that is you end up maybe with you know, long term bunch of customers or bunch of clients that you don't really want, but you're just with them. And actually being in other agencies, and sorry to say this, but they've all got that group of clients that they don't really want to work with, they don't really like, that they've just kind of ended up with. And you can tell the people who work on those clients in those agencies, because we've been those people, that kind of go, who is it? Oh, we've got the meeting with Thingy today, and they,
it's
you
Jane
know,
again,
their heart sinks, and they got that client, and they never want to do that work anyway, you know. And that creates like just a bad working environment, you know, like it's just moody and stuff like that. So I think we were trying to find that, and I think through trial and error, we had a client that was, you know, started off okay, but we realised very quickly it wasn't right for us. And you know, and it was getting to that stage, and luckily we don't have that client anymore. And I think it was at that point, I don't really know how it sort of come about, but we were in the office in this kind of incubator kind of thing, weren't we? Like, not planned or nothing. We were just there shooting the shit. And we got on the whiteboard, and then we started talking about who is our ideal customer, but not from a point of view of like, it's a bloke or a girl and they're this age and they're in this industry. It wasn't all
they use
that.
this
like,
skincare.
Yeah. It was like we started talking about, because you've been doing this psychology degree, and I've been watching a lot of TED Talks over the years, especially one on this idea of Tom, Jerry and Ugly Jerry. So that's where the kind of name come from. Although in that instance, it was a lot more about shopper behavior when, you know, when you're presented with two options, you know, you've got laptop A or laptop B, so you've got a Tom and a Jerry. But if you put in a version of that laptop that's broke, so that would be the Ugly Jerry, then suddenly it makes Jerry more appealing. So that's kind of where it come from. So it's just sort of a loose kind of name grab, really, because it's not directly that. Anyway, I dissect. We looked at the psychology, you know, how does Jerry act? Where does Jerry sit? You know, so for example, it was stuff like, you know, how desperate are they? You know, do they need immediate results tomorrow? Is their mortgage part of their mortgage for this company? They've got to get those sales. And if it was there, it was in that zone, it wasn't right for us, because SEO takes time. You know, you're not going to get leads tomorrow. So, and it was about like multiple things like that, wasn't it? We had like loads. That board was mental. Do you remember it? And that we then worked out that matrix diagram, and then we sort of plotted where Jerry was. And then it was like a light switch, wasn't it? Because then we went through existing clients, we went through prospect clients, you know, proposals we had out, and we were like, yeah, that's not, even if that comes in, that's not Jerry, is it? They're not, you know. And then we were like, and then we looked at sectors, and we made so much cuts, didn't we? We just sliced the thing to smithereens, really, didn't we?
Yeah, it's it became instantly more to us than simply a customer persona. It became one of the many now paradigms that you and I have created from a blank canvas of how we function and orient ourselves. Like one of like a paradigm that we have to reject is you know, get in the office and hiring loads of new white MacBooks for everybody and and get a nice coffee machine and some plants, just because that's just not us. So that's the paradigm we have to reject, but we have to then create our own paradigms, and one of them was creating the amalgamation between who do we actually want to work with, because we have to enjoy all of this at the same time, because this is life, so who do we actually want to work with, and who should we work with, and the amalgamation of the two. And it came from a lot of my obsessions around paradigms have come from whatever I've just read in a random book or whatever I've seen online. And it was a story from, I can't actually remember what it was, but a story from an advertising example of an advertising exec went into a company. It was like one of the big like skincare companies, I think, or one of those kind of products, right? And they were pitching something, and they were telling the story about how the people they were pitching it to kind of laughed and chuckled and said under their breath, "No, that's not Jerry." It wasn't Jerry. That wasn't the word they used. Yeah. But and then the storyteller was saying how, what do you mean that's not? Why have you just laughed at me? I thought it's a good idea. It was like, that's not Jerry. That's not. It's got nothing to do with Jerry. And then so us finding out who our Jerry is, kind of means that we don't have to work with anyone or do anything we don't want to do, because all our job actually is improving the lives and businesses of Jerry's through our expertise with what we know about search engines. Yeah, exactly. And if we don't feel like we can do that to them, we don't want to work with them. Yeah. That's it, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's and the funny thing is, well, it's not funny. What I've found, what we now do is that when we're speaking to a client or a prospective client, we ask them about their Jerry. And I always find this, that we go, actually use the word Jerry, and they look a bit blankly, but they soon get what we're on about. But like, I'm like, well, who's your Jerry? And then I always get this kind of thing back that, we've done customer personas, but yeah, they have, but that's like the tip of the iceberg. And I find that, like, although, look, we're an SEO firm, right? So, are we reaching into like branding and all this sort of, this sort of world, maybe with this a little bit, maybe we are, but like, I always feel that like, if we can help them understand who their Jerry is and who that, really pinpoint that, then like it helps them anyway, right? And it massively helps us with search, because then we can make much better assumptions about intent, for what we're going to target for these Jerrys. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And equally with some people, we find that if most of their Jerrys literally, they just live in Facebook communities, then whether SEO is like a really good idea for them or not, genuinely it might not be. Do you know what I mean? But I think my point with this is like, that's why Jerry is so powerful, because now we know our Jerry, we can help them find their Jerry. And then if we're all on board and we agree and we're aligned with who the Jerry is, then, it makes our job so much easier, right?
Well, everything else just falls into place, because that's the thing with paradigms as well. And that's why the phrase paradigm shift is a thing, because when you believe something about life, and then all of a sudden you realise you don't need to, or it's a bit different, you kind of have that paradigm shift. Oh, right, okay, so I've been existing this way, for example. Yeah. So that's why the paradigm of understanding who your Jerry is like, it's step one, because, and I don't think it's about anything to do with branding or anything. It's like, if you run a chip shop or a family Italian restaurant or something, but you didn't really understand who your ideal customer was and everything about them, you knew them better than they know themselves, you're going to struggle. Yeah. It's as simple as that, because you might put the wrong pink tinsel up in the window that isn't quite for them, and then good luck.
This is it, yeah. I think the reason I said branding is that, like, it is a bit of a hard one. Like, you think when they would have gone through that process, they probably would have maybe had an idea of their ideal customer, but maybe not fully. They then might have probably rebranded or branded at some point, and then the branding company would have touched upon personas, maybe like a one-page slide or something, and then they would have like gone, well, this is your these are your personas. So you've got the young family, you've got the middle-aged sort of family, and then you have the sort of the older gang.
That's typically what it is on a deck, isn't it, for a marketing
and it's
document.
those stock pictures of like those kind of white families.
This is Brian,
right. I like.
It's very akin to my family chain. And I think the reason I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying what's right for us is that it's not like, do you need to use this hint of purple in your branding because that's what your customer personas want.
Yeah.
With the Jerry's, it's more so, isn't it? Like, what do they need? What do they require day to day in order to be who they want to be? Yeah. It's at such a deeper level.
Yeah. What are their problems? What are they trying to fix? What do they search for on Google late at night? What's keeping them up? Like, what are they?
What salary or car they drive. It actually matters what beans they have on their toast.
Yeah.
It'd be baked beans, actually, wouldn't it?
I think Branston's way better, but they're like £1.50 now. So I switched to Co-op.
Right, okay. It's all the same, different packaging.
Can we say brand names on this kind of thing? Can you?
Yes. Heinz or Branston's, if you're listening, drop a comment.
Yeah.
What segue can we take from that, Mike?
Well, I think we can talk about Callum. Because I feel like we probably should have talked about him earlier. And sorry, Callum, we should have really talked about you earlier. So, I mean, Callum for me was the biggest. You talked about the first 3 to 6 months. The biggest game changer was Callum coming on. So Callum is director of 18 Growth, and he came on. I can't remember the exact date.
Me neither. Was it around, I don't know, the first few months?
Yeah,
Cal come in and
so when he came in, brilliant. So to kind of, I mean, okay, I'll put this question to you. So how would you describe kind of Callum, you and I? How would you describe you and I, sort of, personality-wise, and then sort of Callum? How would you see that dynamic?
Sure. Well, firstly, the only reason Callum's not here is because we have limited setup equipment, and the frame Mike and I are about 5'7", 5'8". Right?
Yeah.
We'll blur that. We'll beep that out. But Cal's much taller than that, so we wouldn't be able to. There's no room.
Yeah, he wouldn't fit in here.
But we'll speak for him. How would I describe us as opposed to, or in comparison?
Yeah, like the trio. The trio? Remember the trio?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it's easier for a creative person to become organised than it is for an organised person to become creative.
Okay.
And that I understand the difference between an artist and a like a works person, a crafts person. But they're both needed, and they both complement each other. A crafts person, you could say to them, I want you to design this flute and make this flute for me in this specific way. They go into the workshop, they make it. But an artist will come up with something that no one even knew they wanted, for example. And Cal and I actually worked on my first ever business together when I was 14, I think, in high school. And Cal was always like an angel to me. It's how I describe him. He is a brother. He is an angel to me personally. He is, shout out to you. He has always been able to take whatever nonsense I spit out and take it into the workshop and make sure that it gets done.
Yeah.
And that is the most amazing dynamic.
Yeah.
And then when we have me and you and Cal, it becomes this triangle approach of me and you doing whatever comes to us from wherever it comes from every single second, and Cal making sure that that's okay.
Yeah. That's really, it's like totally really good way of putting it. So yeah, I mean,
I realise that has nothing to do with SEO though, so I'll explain it in SEO maybe.
I guess we can talk about SEO at some
Why
point.
not?
Yes, no bullshit SEO podcast, but no, that dynamic's absolutely right. So like we're way up on this creative spectrums in our own sort of areas of it. Like for example, we'd probably say that like I'm quite extroverted and you're like more introverted, you know what I mean? But we're way up on this creative sort of spectrum, and then Callum's almost like this kind of rock, isn't he? That like the sort of sensible surface, but the kind of the sensible head in the room. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That will like, we will with your help like be able to like make that actionable. You know what I mean? Like basically create whatever madness into like some full-on hardcore spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
He is the spine, and but the funny thing is, because he'll be listening to this thinking it's just not true, but because he isn't sensible, he's probably worse than me in some things. So, but it is at the same time because he's so raw in that he also has no choice but to always do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he doesn't subscribe to any paradigms or any ways of doing anything. So therefore, he will always find the best way that is his version of doing things. That is also our version. So that's why it's the spine, and clients absolutely love him. He is a very particular type of person with his sense of humour. But there is nobody that I would want doing anything that I want them doing, let alone improving the relevance of their business online, than Callum, because he will say everything bluntly. He puts his heart and soul into everything, wears it on his sleeve, whatever the phrase is. He cares more than anyone about anything, and about just doing the right things in the way that makes him happy. He is an unshakable, unconquerable force of nature within this industry that is 18 gross backbone.
That's well said, man.
If he's not happy after that,
I mean, we can always edit out the real version. No, I mean, great. I mean, that takes us probably up to after Christmas, right? I imagine. Yeah.
I need a piss. That's a good way. That's a really good mid.
All right. Let's talk about the 6-month mark. So it kind of felt that almost 6 months in, out of nowhere, we just kind of blew up. We just kind of boomed. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of felt that before that, we were just sort of on a level, but we were on this level. Do you know what I mean? And I know that we were doing a lot of stuff in that time, but did you feel that as well? That 6 months, it just went.
Yeah, and it's a book a lot of people will be familiar with. It's called Atomic Habits. James Clear, I think, was the guy who wrote it, and he has this concept of the plateau of latent potential, and it's everyone will be aware of a kind of a graph that kind of looks like nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden, boom. And that's exactly what happened in regards to the key goals of the business of our business, like we said earlier. And that's it requires you to have some kind of faith in the systems and the steps that you are taking, because the latent potential is that the thing that could happen from your actions happens later than you expect, and sometimes all at once, because they're delayed and it's a metronomic process. But that means that the actions that you're doing have to be the right ones, otherwise there's not going to be any potential. It's just a simple plateau of ignorance, really. But it did feel like it happened all at once, but it was almost a really good confidence hit for us, wasn't it? Because we had all the faith, we knew it was going to happen, it happened, our faith was rewarded, and it's like, right, okay, so it was actually going to work, so now we know what works, and this is our version of everything else, like we keep saying.
Exactly that. Obviously you knew I was going to ask you that question, so it's a podcast, we made a couple of notes, but it is like that though, isn't it? It's like Indiana Jones. You remember there's that big massive ball in it, and it takes a lot to get it going, but then once it starts rolling, then it just suddenly sort of rolls in. It's weird because we always tell clients, don't we, SEO, you need to kind of, you've got to be realistic. 3 months, you might see a bit of low-hanging fruit, but it's a long-term game, it's a long-term rollover, do you know what I mean? And then it compounds. But with us, I think it was around about just after Christmas, wasn't it? And we hadn't really paid ourselves at all. And then but we want to keep the money in the business, and then all of a sudden it just compounded. And I think it's definitely that, all the stuff that we put in, all the systems that we put in, and working out who Jerry was and building that network just seemed to come all of a sudden, didn't it? Boom, 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 boom.
But
was it like Feb time, do you think?
Yeah, but about February or March, it started to be the feedback loop of all our systems that we're working on are actually really good. But I think we've got to accept, humans are humans, right? And even though our clients, even though anyone who knows anything about digital they know it's a long-term game. They know that.
Yeah.
However, and they'll tell you they know that, but the day after, one of the first things they'll do on their phone, but before or after a shower, sometimes during, is check their rankings on the second day. So they can tell us that they know it, just like we told ourselves we know it, but you still want it now because we're humans, right? But a good part of the feedback loop was that it and our faith of the systems in the process and having the patience that it's gonna just boom. It allowed us to still to focus elsewhere, which was on like creating the infrastructure of our entire service and operation.
Yeah.
So that when it was then really tested, when the dam was really tested, it stood its ground, and it was exactly as we wanted it to be. We know our service is 5-star, and in our own way, unlike any other SEO thing.
Yeah.
But it gave us that time to make our version of it, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that was like, also that's like the fundamental difference when like I was a freelancer for brief periods. Like I lived in basically chaos, you know, like, do you know what I mean? Like it was just chaos. But actually what we've done is like, you know, we say to each other, and it's like optimize everything, isn't it? Like literally optimize everything. And like by creating like a micro task, you know, not just for the sake of it, because, you know, fuck that, but like a standard operating procedure for every kind of micro task. You know, within, like, we use Notion, so big shout out to Notion. Give us some free stuff.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much. Having that system or using that system, how we've got it tailored now, is like wicked, isn't it? Like Ronnie's created this thing called the Bible, which is like, it's not a religious document, by the way.
That we religiously follow it.
That we religiously follow it. But it's got everything in there, you know, like someone that didn't know a particular task could, if they wanted to, go and look at it. Not that we have those sort of people, but
Tom, Dick and Harry just coming in and
yeah,
just doing
like if
want,
Tom came in, but we haven't got a Tom, but you know, we do have a Ben, which we can talk about it in a minute maybe, but like, yeah, that's it, isn't it? That system there. And I think spending that time on that and working out who Jerry is and the rest of it, and then just being patient, and then with, you know, not getting, you know, because the other alternative, and I've seen this with startups, is like we could panic about where the next client's coming from and stuff like that after that 4 or 5 month, or like startups do, they basically go, oh, where's the ROAS, you know, like that, and maybe the investors are like, where's the money, you know, where's the money coming in? They put all this pressure on, and then I just think that would lead to like bad short-term decisions, or like bad clients, you know. Even in that 6-month period, we were turning work down, right? Because and it wasn't the right kind of thing for us, you know, and we were just going no all the time, you know, and it played its course, you know what I mean? I think that's how our growth will be. It won't be, and I don't think it ever is, like a kind of a straight, like a, you know, one of those nice looking graphs you see on LinkedIn that like, oh, look at this perfect bullshit.
Designed on
like
Canva.
Yeah, it's on a Canva. Like it sort of went, and then we plateaued, and then all of a sudden, boom, we hit a spike. Do you know what I mean? And actually, it's been quite good, almost to consolidate that the last few months, isn't it? And then, you know, and just refine everything a little bit, you know, and like you say, you know, it's strong now. The castle's strong, man.
Yeah. Maybe these are like closing questions that I think I have. Right, it might be a good way to look over everything that we've just gone through and kind of.
Yeah.
So, our whole point of getting together and building our own version focused around the point of we are the best no bullshit SEO company.
Yeah.
That is what we do.
Yeah.
We do SEO the best. How do you think we've achieved that or moved towards it? That's not a good enough question.
No, I got it. I've got the answer for that.
You've got it. That's good.
We will achieve that because we'll outsource everything to Fiverr. The end.
Thanks so much for watching. Yeah.